Well, hello, and welcome to the session today. We've got a lot to go through in this short amount of time, and I want to give you as much value as I can. So everyone can kind of get ready, go grab a piece of paper and pen if you haven't, because there's going to be some exercises for you to do, and of course, taking notes for you to refer back to. So if you haven't got those, go grab it now, and we'll get started. So the question is, have you lost yourself in the craziness that is drug addiction? We lose ourselves, don't we, as mothers, as women? Often anything other than being a drug addict's mother doesn't exist for us. Sure, we function most of the time, doing the doing and doing the things that need to be done in our everyday lives externally, but inside it can be all-consuming. That becomes all that we are. We struggle every day with guilt, sadness, heartbreak, shame, fear, and the list goes on. So it's kind of getting us present to what's going on in our lives. So what I want you all to do right now is just stop for a moment and get out of your chair and stand up. Stand tall. Just feel the energy in your body. Just feel like you're actually alive. Put your shoulders back, stand tall and smile. You know, we're going to be kind of getting ourselves into that space of where we've been and where we are maybe right now in the throng of the craziness that's going on around us. And it kind of becomes easy to get stuck in that place, and we end up being physically not at our best, where we're not feeling confident and alive. And we can help that by changing our physiology, changing the way we physically, kind of demonstrate ourselves. So it's like when we come across somebody who is depressed or sad or anything that kind of disempowers somebody, is you can tell, can't you, from their body language what's going on. They're slumped over, frown on their face, everything, tells us where they're at. So just a little thing for you moving forward is, when you're feeling like that, change your physiology. Get up, stand tall, feel confident. You know what it's like when somebody's like that and they enter the room. Isn't their energy infectious? So I just want you to get in the very best kind of emotional state right now as we move through the next hour. So who am I to be talking to you today about the subject that we're talking about? So, just making sure I get these jolly slides to move. So my name is Karen Oates, and I'm the mother of a drug addict. In fact, I'm the mother of 2 drug addicts. My son is in recovery, and my daughter is still in active addiction. And I have lived every disempowering aspect of what that can mean. I was chained to all that I talked about before: guilt, sadness, fear. And at one point I was barely functioning. Oh, well, yeah, on the outside, it didn't look so bad. You see, nobody really knew what was going on for me. I was in a new marriage, I had a business to run, but I was dying inside. My son had left home and was sleeping on the streets, doing all sorts of crazy things. And at the time, I actually had no idea that drugs were involved. And my daughter was caught up in a world I had no idea about. She had left home. And when I say no idea about, I knew it certainly wasn't where I wanted her to be. And she was not living by my model of the world. I remember one day sitting at my desk feeling like my heart was going to explode out of my chest because everything seemed so futile and out of control. I realized in that moment I was never going to have the family I always thought I would. Do well at school, go to university, get a good job, find a nice partner, and live happily ever after. And the grief of that shook me to my core, and I felt I couldn't go on. But something called me to look for how I could carry on despite what was going on around me. That I had a life to live, but it could not continue for me the way that it had. So I went on a journey of discovery, first of all to find tools to help me through, to help me just cope. This evolved into learning about myself, growing myself as a person, letting go of everything that I thought I was and I wasn't, and showing up in my life as me. So I've done a lot of training and personal development, and at first, people could start seeing the changes in me. And then I started getting asked to help, just help other people. And of course I did that from the best place that I could. But then I realized that I really wanted to help especially women. So I stepped up kind of even further and did some extensive training. I invested heavily in my training and moved into initially helping women struggling in their business, because it's never just about business. Anything in our life that we're wanting change in, and business is a prime example of this, it's 80% about mindset and psychology, and 20% is about the mechanics, the strategy, about what we need to do. So more recently, I've realized that my mission is to help other women who have been on a similar journey. I've been there, and from that place, coupled with my extensive training, I've developed specialized training and programs to help other mothers, because there's little out there in the way of help and support for families who are on a drug journey. So the biggest gap for me when I was going through this and didn't know where to go, who to turn to, where my support was, the biggest gap then for me was what I know now and live every day. So I've told you a little bit about my story, and I want you to stop just for a moment and sit with your story. I just want you to sit and close your eyes and actually just feel the weight of that. Your story, where you've been, the journey that you've been on. Don't worry, we're not going to stay here, but I just want you to get present to what this means for you. And I want you now to write down 3 words that come up for you. Don't overthink it, I want you to write down 3 words that come up to describe your story, your journey, and in particular around your son or daughter or whoever it is that is the addict. So whatever words come up for you are fine. Just take a moment and just write them down. Now I want you to just close your eyes for a moment. And I just want you to imagine that you have those words on your hand. Just see them on your hand. And now clench your fist around those words in your mind's eye. Now I just want you to quickly open your hand and watch those words just fly away, right up into the sky until they disappear. So I want you to imagine that you've let your story go, because you are not your story. We can get so caught up in this that it becomes overwhelming and all-consuming, and that's what makes up your world. It overtakes everything, and the more you focus on your story, the more it keeps this locked in as your reality, and it becomes who you are. So I just want to go through a little bit of an analogy, just for you to understand what this means. I want you to imagine a box. I want you to imagine that you're living in a box. So inside that box with you, where you currently live, is all those things we talked about before: guilt, blame, shame, fear, grief, heartbreak, everything. All those disempowering emotions. Because it's everything that you know. It's where you develop the cycles of rescuing and enabling. It's where the line between love and pain have no boundaries. And it's also where our unconscious mind tells us it's safe. Safe because we've always done it this way and we know that we can cope. As crazy as it is, we continue to repeat the same cycles because we perceive we're in control. Even though when everything's out of control, our unconscious or subconscious mind is keeping all the same things in place because it's what we know. We know we're going to get the same result, and we know subconsciously that we can deal with that, even when everything is out of control. But here's the crazy thing. Everything that we want is outside the box. Because outside the box is the unknown. It's where everything that is different resides. So it's everything that we've not tried and we've been afraid to try. It's actually where our happiness lives. It's where everything exists that we want. But getting outside that box, where it's the unknown, it means you have to move through barriers that hold everything else in place, that hold you in. Because what happens is every now and again we get brave, right? And we try something different. We step into the fear and the pain of all those emotions. And it's like lifting the lid of the box. But what happens is the box comes and whacks us on the head, and we put ourselves back in our box with the lid clamped down, and we say, "See, I told you so." Because when we do that, the fear kicks in. The inner critic kicks in. The inner critic being that little voice in your head that tells you nothing's going to change and asks all the wrong questions. So when you have collapsed every side of the box, it means you live a life of no constraints. I guess it's a bit like the comfort zone, right? And we get inside that comfort zone and we call it comfortable even though it sure ain't comfortable. But the pain, that's the perceived pain of moving through the edges of that comfort zone, are too overwhelming. We put our foot over the edge and we get that same result as the box banging down on top. Something pops our toes off, so we pull our foot back in. But it's getting through those pain barriers. And somewhere, something's telling us that the pain of doing that is more extreme, or going to be more extreme, than the pain that we're currently living. So it's about, again, moving outside what we know, into the unknown realm, because that's where everything that you want lives. So again, I just want you to sit with your eyes closed and ask yourself this question. Why is it important to you to have some change, to have things be different? If you've shown up on the webinar today, you want things to be different, right? But I want you to get really in touch with the why. Why is this important to you? We're going to explore this question more as we move forward, but it's really important to get to understand we want something different. And that first layer of why might be that you can't live like this anymore. But we'll start looking at what needs to change in the response to that why question of why it's important. So in this process, we've kind of looked at your story. What I mean by your story, I think you all probably understand, I'm hoping that you do, is what's been your journey, what's going on for you, what's happened for you to be in this place now where you want something different, knowing that your son or your daughter or whoever it may be and their drug addiction is hugely impacting your life. And I know how horrific that journey can be. So there's a few things that we need to get to have more awareness around. And the first one that we're going to look at is understanding what being addicted to drugs actually means. And there's all sorts of, out there in the big wide world, there's all sorts of ways of looking at addiction. But I just want to present one position to you today. So what is drug addiction? Well, when you have somebody who is addicted to drugs and you're trying to do whatever you can as a mother to help that person, you've got to know that you're not dealing with your child. You're dealing with something that is all-powerful and destructive and has absolute control and priority over everything else for that person. But your child, that person, that young baby that you brought into the world, your child's in there somewhere. And whilst you know what you're dealing with, the drug, always appeal to that small little gap where you may get through to your child. But also know that this is their choice. Everything that they do moment by moment is their choice. And this is not because of what you've done as a mother or what's happened to them. For them, in every moment, their actions are still a choice. You can't change that. You can only change you and what you do. Dealing with guilt, shame, and self-blame. This is the biggie to keep the disempowerment that you're living in place. So how can you deal with this? Because it starts off as you demonstrating your love for your child. You want the very best for them. And as a mother, we have expectations, right? And when it doesn't turn out that way, we end up looking first to ourselves. What did we do wrong? And it must be something we've done. And that level of shame because we don't want anyone to know. Because especially in the last, I don't know how long, forever, nobody wants to put up their hand and say, my son or my daughter's a drug addict. I know I sure didn't. Shame was a big one for me, although I didn't identify it as that at the time when I was kind of in the depths of this. But it was hugely there for me. But the thing is, it's not necessarily out there in front of you, but It's running in the background of everything. So one of the things that you can do to deal with this is living in the now. What do I mean by that? It's like reminding yourself that no matter where you are right now, no matter how bad you think things are and how things could have been different, it's about not reflecting on the past, not worrying about the future. And I know that that becomes, you may be sitting there thinking that that's just not possible for me. I'm a worrier. It's the fear of the consequences, right? What happens if this happens? What happens if that happens? But it's moment by moment dealing with what is. Moment by moment looking for the good things that you have in your life. The good things that you have to be grateful for. And I know there was many a time when, this kind of concept was presented to me about, what are you grateful for? Well, I'd go straight into my head and think that I feel like I've got nothing to be grateful for. I couldn't think of a thing because I was looking kind of externally for the things that were, majorly important to me. But if you stop right now, and even if your head goes into trying to overthink things and think about things, just look around you. I'm looking here and thinking, I've got a cup of water with ginger in it sitting here. I'm really grateful that I have that to drink, right? It's just looking for the small things to start with. What are you grateful for? Looking outside, it's actually raining right here, right now. And this morning I was really grateful that the sun was shining because we've been having an awful lot of rain. But, like, what out there? I'm looking at my car. I'm so grateful I've got a car to drive. It's just taking stock of what you do and finding that gratitude in some of the small things until you can start feeling grateful for the bigger things. I remember someone telling me at one time, oh, you should be grateful for your journey. It's made you into who you are today. Well, in actual fact, at that point in time, I didn't like who I was. I didn't want to have had the experience of my journey. Now, I feel totally grateful from the bottom of my heart for my journey, for my children, for what I've had to go through. And that may seem now as a huge gap for you to be able to get to that place, but it can happen. So what is rescuing and enabling? Well, know this, no amount of money in the world can make the drug stop being in control. No amount of anything you do or give will change their situation or help them get off drugs. They have to take responsibility for their choices. This is a big one because it started from that place of you wanting the best for them. From the love of a mother, right? But now it comes from that place of guilt and grief and shame. And it makes you feel worse when you give them the opportunity to be at best ungrateful and at worst that it's just money for more drugs. It keeps everything locked in place, and because it becomes like an addiction for you, because you don't know how to do anything else, and you're fearful of the consequences if you don't. But it's also more than that in regards to an addiction. It's like what do they take drugs for? What do people smoke for? What's kind of the younger generation all about now? It's instant kind of self-gratification. It's instant pleasure. It takes away the immediate pain. And that's what it does for an enabler. When I used to give my son money, I was confronted by whether it was him demanding money or even just asking for it. I would instantly go into this place of, oh my God, here we go again. I don't want to do it. But I then came up with all the reasons why I should. But if I don't give him this money, what will happen? He won't have any groceries. He won't have a way of getting on a bus to go where he needs to go. I'd justify all those things, and I'd give him the money, and I'd feel that relief. The pain goes away. But what happens is that builds and builds and builds, and we're not doing the right thing by them. That the pain further down the track, because of the enabling, gets worse. And we've created this cycle, and we've trained them how to communicate with us and what we will actually do and how far they can push before they get what they want. It becomes like an addictive cycle, and it is so hard to break that when we've got our mind, and this is when we're inside the box, justifying why we should do it. So when you are next confronted with an opportunity where in the past you would have rescued or enabled, in those tough moments, ask yourself this question: how can I best support their recovery? And by giving them money in that moment is not supporting them to recover from being a drug addict, from finding a way through what they need to find a way through. Sometimes the lines are blurred between just being a mum and supporting versus rescuing and enabling. But you know in your heart of hearts when you are. So it's time to stop doing those things that you've always done. You are not a bad mother when you say no. You are an empowered mother when you say no. Even if it feels uncomfortable or painful at first, you are moving out of the box from your known world into the unknown. If you want someone else to change, you have to change who you are being. We want so much for them to change, but we have no control over that. We can change our actions and our behaviors and our thoughts to get a different result, a different response. So how do we change? What do we need to change? It's time to write a new story. It's time to focus on what it is that you can do, but it's also even more important than that. Start focusing on what you want your life to be like. What do you want in your new story? It's time to write your new story. So the first question is, who are you? Who are you really? It's time to take off those masks that you wear. All those beliefs and decisions from your old story that do not serve you. To take you back to your authentic self, to the real you. You know, the one, you know, when we arrive here on this planet as a young baby, completely naked of anything. No fear. We're fearless, right? We're fearless. We're in our authentic space. And it's everything that happens to us and our conditioning and our communities, our parents, our experiences of life that create our beliefs. of how things should be, of how we are, of who we are. So it's time to take off that mask. And that mask at the moment that you're wearing is even more complicated because on the screen you see the pink mask. And if you look at the words that are on that mask, how many of those do you identify with? So it's time to take off the old mask and get back to who you really are. And then you can actually create a new mask, new beliefs, and make new decisions about yourself, ones that empower you. So here we are, looking at where we are right now. Where are you right now? What are you right now? This is about looking at all the aspects of your life. The what's. What are you? You're a mother. You're a wife. You're an employee. You're a business owner. It's all those what's. So it's time to look at what you are and what you do in your life. So we're just going to do a short exercise here. I want you to think about 3 areas of your life. One being everything that's tough, everything that surrounds your addict son or daughter, all the stuff that does not serve you. Now I want you to think about everything that's kind of normal, all the routine things. All the things that you have to do, like maybe being at work, going to work, doing the housework. Just all those routine, normal things. Now I want you to think about all the things in your life that are great, the things that you love to do, the places that you love to be. Think about the people who do love you. All those exciting things that you could get excited about if you park the other areas. So it's not just about the things that you're grateful for, but what do you love to do? Where do you love to be and who do you love to be with? So I want you to think about those 3 areas. I want you to write down 1, 2, and 3 and just identify those. Write those down. So 1 is everything that's tough. 2 is everything that's normal. And 3 is everything that's great. Just an exercise that you can do. I want you to remind yourself that you're not just an addict's mother. Your life is not just about being consumed by everything that means. That if you choose to look at those different areas of your life and understand that the more we focus on the good things and not allow the tough stuff to take us over. So every morning I want you to look at these areas of your life and just see what your life is really like. Remind yourself of the great things, the normal things, and remind yourself of the tough stuff. But go looking for more of the great things. But know that your life is actually a whole mix of things together, not just the difficult, but the great things too, or the good things. And know that you can choose to focus on the good things. And when you do, you end up getting more of that comes into your awareness. But it's so easy. I know when I lived it 24/7. And even when, we think we're not consciously thinking about it because we're doing something else or we're involved in something else, it's running in the background all the time. And that's when you become numb, when you have that feeling of numbness. I don't know whether anybody else identifies with that, but that's how I was for so long. So then find and know you. So what can you be doing every day to uncover more about who you are and who you want to be in this life, where you can find passion and excitement and contentment and fulfillment and go live an exciting life? Because you are your biggest gift. When you own who you are and the value that you bring to the world, everything changes. But you don't just suddenly one day make that decision that I'm going to own the value I bring to the world. When you've gone through some of the things that you have, there's some things that need to happen in order for you to be able to be okay with where things are. Acknowledge all the great things about you. But you're unique. You being here, just you having shown up on this planet is the gift that you've got to bring to this world. But your gift, who you really are, gets so covered up with that mask, gets so weighed down by the heavy blanket of what's going on, all that tough stuff that's going on in your life. But one of the key things to be looking at here is how you can best manage your emotional state. How you feel determines everything. And there's lots of things that you can do to shift that state when you're in that state. But the first thing is you've got to be aware of it. My numbness was it was almost like there was nothing else but this numbness. Oh, there were heights of the kind of the pain, and there were, times when the pleasure would kind of kick in. But most of the time it was an emotional feeling of numbness. But you've got to be aware of what's going on. So one of the things I talked about at the beginning is when you're feeling in an emotional state that you don't like, is to go move. More than just standing up and standing tall and putting your shoulders back and smiling. It's like get the energy pumping through your body. Put on some dance music. Start dancing around the room. Go for a jog, a real, even if it's 100 meters down the road, go for a power walk, whatever it is to get that energy going. Do some star jumps. If you're at work or, you're somewhere where you feel like you can't do that, just go into the toilet and stand there and jump up and down on the spot, whatever it is that you can do to get the energy moving through your body. The other one, another thing that you can do, and this has been a game changer for me, and it's something that I get all my clients to do. It's develop some rituals, so it's habits that empower you. And these things are like meditation, journaling, yoga, a gratitude process. There's some kind of, I'll call them spiritual for want of better terms, but spiritual processes where you get in touch with who you are and all the yummy, juicy things that you have available to you to use. I do a 40-minute ritual every morning that gets me in peak emotional state. It's made up of a whole lot of things, and this is what my clients all do, is the part of gratitude. It's about looking at how I love myself. What are the things about me that I love? Then looking at what's currently going on for me that I might still have some little beliefs that come up that don't serve me. And there's new ones that, if we've had, 30, 40 years, 50 years of conditioning that we've been telling ourselves that we're not worthy, or we'll never get what we want, or we're a bad mother. If we've had years and years of telling ourselves that, they're there, but we want to shift them, but they'll keep popping up, or a new one will pop up at different depths. But it's what is something that I want to, what's the new belief I want to take on board instead of that old one? So I've got a process in there that deals with what are the beliefs, new beliefs that I want to hold. And then looking at what do I want in my life? What does my future look like? So there's lots and lots of things that you can be doing. So go exploring those sorts of things. Meditation, I hear people all the time, if I talk about meditation, it's like, oh, I tried that and it doesn't work for me. Well, it doesn't work for you because you didn't continue. Meditation is you have this perception that it's probably about quietening your mind and not thinking about anything. Oh, but I can't, my mind just won't allow me to sit still. It's actually called meditation practice, because there is no perfecting meditation. It is what it is on that day and in that moment. But when you sit still and sit quietly and focus on your breath and allow yourself to have the thoughts float through and float away, but not buying into them. Go try that if you haven't. It's hugely empowering. And the other thing is, find out what fun is for you. I talk to so many women who don't have any fun in their life. They don't even know what fun looks like. They don't know what that is that they would like to go and do and explore and try, because they've just blocked that part of their life off. And fully embrace your self-care. We're going to talk a little bit more about this, but self-care, it's about putting on your mask first before you can help anybody else. It's about filling your cup up first, because you can't pour from an empty cup. So plan that into what it is that you do. Support. Who's there to support you? Who supports you now? But I really want you to think about support and what support looks like. It might not be your normal friend who will keep you stuck in your old story. Because we get so, we can, I found with women that I talk to and clients, they go either one of two ways. They don't want anyone to know and they've got basically nobody to talk to, or they live in their story and everybody knows their story, and every opportunity they'll get to talk about how hard things are and what's happened. But that's being stuck in your story. What you focus on expands. It's not where you want to live your life. And neither do you want to live your life in denial or without any support. So it's looking at who can best support you and telling them what support you want and how you want it. Some days maybe it's just a hug. But it's always someone who will hold you to what it is that you say you want, which is about looking forward and moving forward. So what is it that you want your life to look like? How do you want to live? What do you want in your future? You need to define what your future looks like. For so long was just stuck in living moment to moment, let alone day to day or month to month or year to year. Yeah, there were some things that that my husband and I might have, been looking forward to doing, but it's like, what do you really want your life to look like? And I didn't ask myself that question for a long, long time. All I knew was I didn't want what I had, but I was focusing on what I didn't want, not focusing on what I did want. What do you want? Yes, we need to take stock and look at what we don't want in order for us to determine sometimes what it is that we do want. So that's a big question. What goals do you have? Where do you see yourself in a year, in 5 years? And sometimes it can be automatic to go, where do I see myself? Still stuck in the same place with things going on with my addict son or child, son or daughter. But what do you want? Because here's the thing, you can have whatever it is that you want, but you first have to claim it, and then you have to go after it. It's not going to just fall about around you. You've got to go after it. So now I want you to ask that question, the why question again. I want you to stop for a moment and close your eyes and ask yourself, why do you want something different? Why do you want a new life? And why is this important to you now? So if you want to, just make some notes of anything that's come up for you. But why do you want this? Why do you want a different life, a new life, something that you can, at the end of your days, look back and go, I lived my life. I had a horrific journey to travel, but I got to a point in my life where I put a line in the sand and said enough is enough. I'm not living as a consequence to everything that's going on around me. I'm going to claim my life and go live my life. And that last day that you're here, you look back and know that you've lived your life. Faith. It's a word, I would say I'm a faith-led person. Because faith and the unknown, like we talked about before, about the box and living in the unknown world, they go hand in hand. I don't know what's out there. I don't know what's ahead. I don't know what my children are going to do next. But I have faith. I have faith that no matter what happens, I will live my best life. I will show up every day as the best version of me. And from that place, I make decisions about my life and how I can best serve the people I'm here to serve. And that includes my children. I have faith that my son and my daughter are here on a journey. And I have faith that they will be okay. I have faith that my son will actually stay in recovery. I have faith that my daughter will find her way and get to where she needs to be. I've had people, when I first talk to a lot of women and they talk about they're just holding on to hope. They might hear my story and say, that gives me hope. I'm not about hope, I'm about faith, because hope is you're holding your life on to something that needs to happen externally for you to be okay. Am I about, like hope is great because you're hoping that things will change. But it's not the thing that you're holding and gripping onto, is hoping that they will change. Have faith that the journey that they are on is actually maybe the journey that they need to be on. Because we're all here on a journey, right? This time between when we arrive and when we leave. And it's about growth. It's about living the fullest life that we can. But we don't all do that. And sometimes, it's helpful to know or to believe that it's all happening for a reason, and a reason sometimes we don't understand. Our job here, if we can, and our personal responsibility is about showing up, stepping up, being in our personal power and living our best life. So what do you do from this point forward? It's about having, as I said before, about knowing what you want your life to look like, and having goals and a plan for how you want that to play out. But it's also about having a plan around what is going to happen when you normally get taken back into maybe your old story, that you stay stuck there. You get sucked in, dragged back, even when you're walking that path. So to help you do that, it's about having your plan for your change. How are you going to deal with things differently? So looking at a plan that includes how you're going to behave differently. What things are you going to be doing differently in regards to especially how you deal with your addict son or daughter? But it's also about what other actions and behaviors are you going to take on to make sure that you move forward in your life. It's having a plan around communication. How are you going to communicate, especially with your son or daughter and other family members? We haven't kind of gone down that road today around how is it impacting everybody else around you, the rest of your family, your partner. So it's looking at how you can best communicate with everybody. It's looking at problem solving. When something comes up, some biggie, it might be that your son steals money. It might be that he's gone to jail. Examples that I've had to deal with, but I didn't have anything to look at as to, okay, if this arises or some biggie arises, this is how we're going to kind of problem solve around that. So it's looking at how you can best deal with the things that arise. And then it's the biggie, the change plan around your self-care, around you. It's looking how you can best manage your emotional state. How you can have love and connection, healthy love and connection with everyone that is important to you. And that includes your addict son or daughter. But this is real love and connection. How can you best show your son or daughter love? And of course the love and connection that we want to have with the other people, our other children maybe, and our partners, even our friends, that gets distorted. So what does that look like? Real love and connection. Growth. In order for you to step into a new life, there is going to be growth required, change required. What does that look like? What needs to happen for you to grow? Contribution. We feel, I've always felt for a long time that I was giving to my family, giving to my son. But it's, again, distorted view on giving. How can you contribute? We all need contribution. It's one of the fundamental basic human needs. We need to feel that we're contributing. But maybe the contributing that you're doing at the moment is ending up making you feel resentful. Because all you're doing is giving. You've given till you've got nothing left, but it's not filling you up the way contribution should be. So it's looking at how else can you contribute in a way that is healthy and happy to you, for you to contribute. And it might be, just some of the little things. It might be little things that you do for the other members of your family, or even your son, or, you go and do something for somebody else that you do with no conditions and no expectation. You do it because it's coming from your heart, and that is when you feel fulfilled. Fun, we talked a bit about this before. What's fun look like for you? Having that in your plan. Looking at, and it could be, I know it was for me, that I didn't identify anything as fun because my time and energy was so taken up with everything else that I didn't even have anything, any space for anything else. But when you're letting go of some of the frantic, hectic, emotional stuff that you go on, that get into, that means that you don't do the things that need to be done every day. When you start taking action from the place of what I call empowerment, you free up a whole lot more time. And then when you start looking at what do I want to do? What can you try? What new things, have you thought about in the past that maybe you'd like to go and explore? So it's thinking about what fun looks like and then putting that in the plan. Support. What does support look like? We talked about this before. Having a plan around support. And what I get some of my clients to do is, make up a bit of a sheet, identify who it is that they want as support people, make up a sheet of what support looks like. And I've got one that's got we've got a tick box, and there's about 6 options. And she'll ring her friend up and say, I need to have a support catch up. And she's feeling, she might be feeling pretty frantic in that moment when she goes and meets up, and she gives her the form, and she's ticked the boxes of what she needs. She doesn't want to go into discussion about the story, or maybe I just need to download for 5 minutes, or I just need a hug today. Whatever it is, but it's having the right support in place. And that's what I do with my clients. It's build a plan. You need a plan. So it's about building a plan, but then it's about how does that plan align with you uncovering who you are and stepping into your personal power as the woman that you came here to show up as, and claiming the life that you want. But it all starts with a choice. You've got to choose. Do I stay stuck where I've got to and living that life and living that story? Or do I want to choose the life that I came here to live? The life I know is actually my birthright. The one that I dreamed about or thought about many, many years ago, but I've given up on, or almost given up on. It's time to make a choice, but knowing too that if you don't choose, that is also a choice, because you'll just continue on down the same road that you've been traveling. And as I said before, if you showed up on this webinar today, then that's not where you want to be, right? But it is about getting outside that box, lifting that lid. But get comfortable being uncomfortable. You've been uncomfortable for so long. This is exploring new areas of uncomfortability. but you can't get a different result from doing the same thing. Somewhere along the line, someone has said that's the definition of insanity, continuing to do the same things and expecting a different result. And stop the patterns that are playing out in your life, the denial, the pretending, the rescuing, and the enabling, because it becomes a cycle of addiction. And this is how you've always played the game, and this is how you think you can cope. And what you think or you're telling yourself and justifying is best for your child. It's not. It's instant gratification for you both. The long-term game to be played is about saying no, about getting them to take accountability, be accountable and responsible for their own lives, even when we know the craziness of the drug that they may be taking. The way to break through that and get to where they reside, the real them, is not by feeding the drug. But it takes courage and commitment. It's about change and growth. And if you're sitting around waiting for something to change, waiting for your child to change, waiting for circumstances to change, then you could be waiting a long time. But if you're sick of waiting, now's the time. So again, I want you to check in. Close your eyes and just check in. Why do you want to feel free? Always be your best and have a future you want and live an amazing life. Why do you want that? It's about living life on your terms. But it takes more than information and what you've learned on this webinar and even knowing what you could or should be doing. It requires some real change. Everybody wants things to be better and different, but nobody wants to change. But if you really want to take control and get your life back, if you want to make real progress, then it begins now, not tomorrow, not when you feel a bit better, not when the stars align. And it all starts with a decision. You must first decide that you are ready to make a stand for yourself, your family, and indeed your addict child. Because this is your life, and you can live an amazing life, and it begins today. So for those of you who decide to no longer tolerate what you have been tolerating, then let's begin this new journey. And I want to support you with a 60-minute complimentary breakthrough coaching session. I've only got 3 spaces. But if you want to get unstuck, get clarity on what you want and what you need to be doing, and find your passion for life again, this is what we will uncover and explore in this session. So who wants that? If that's you, I'm just going to pop up in the chat a link to, now there's a lot of you on the webinar, and I absolutely want to make sure that you know you've got some value out of today, that it's at least started you thinking about how things can be different, what you want, because this isn't about your addict child, this is about you. As I said before, you can't pour from an empty cup. The thing that happens is you make decisions based on fear and guilt and shame and heartbreak running the show. You can't make good decisions from that place. But here's what I know. When you are in your power, when you've let go of that old mask, you've put on a new mask with new beliefs about yourself, and own the value that you bring to this world as a mother, as a partner, as a worker, as a business, whatever other aspects of your life that you are, when you own the value that you bring to every aspect of your life, you make the right and the best decisions for your life and for everybody else's life. So as I say, I have 3 spaces available for a complimentary coaching session, a 60-minute session. If you would like to apply, click on the link that I've just put up and send your application through. And if you are committed, I want to work with those who are the most committed. You will get so much value from the 60-minute session. This could be the absolute beginning of a new life for you and your family. But regardless of what happens, step into your power, own your life, and go live it. It's been my pleasure to be on the call today, and please feel free to send any feedback. I'd love to hear from you. But until I talk to you again, or we meet up again on a webinar or whatever, go look for what it is that you want and how you can create the life that you want. Bye for now.